I grew up in a small suburb of Detroit where we knew pretty much everyone in town and no one really left. My mom was a preschool special education teacher, and my dad was a motor repairman. My entire extended family lived nearby, and I had lived in the same house for my entire life. When I moved to Baltimore in 2012 for college, I didn't know anyone in the area and was nervous about fitting into this new environment, having just left my small town bubble for the first time. I was immediately met with hundreds of classmates who had physicians as parents, went to private schools, and had worked in research labs in high school. That certainly wasn't me. I felt like an outsider, and I quickly sought out new ways to find community. I found that community in Thread, a Baltimore organization that provides wraparound support to the most underperforming high school students in the city for 10 years. As a volunteer over the course of the next 3 years, I got to know members of the Baltimore community who helped me more than I had ever helped them. Devante, his girlfriend, and their 3 kids quickly became my family. I visited them in the hospital when they had a baby and spent every weekend helping Devante get his high school diploma, despite spending the majority of that time in jail. They always asked me how I was doing and held my hand as I cried on their porch when it felt like everything was falling apart. Though an unlikely family at first glance, I'd found the community that I had so desperately been searching for. 4 years after moving to Baltimore, on the evening of November 8th, I watched state after state get called for Donald Trump as I was sitting on my couch reading an article about how astronauts can vote from the International Space Station. How could the astronauts, orbiting at 220 miles in space, vote in this election while I, 2 feet firmly on Earth with access to unlimited phone calls and the US Postal Service, couldn't? I felt the frustration of the past few months of sitting in front of my computer, refreshing the absentee ballot tracker website, calling my small town election office. But ultimately, all that mattered was that I did not vote in this election. How many other people had done the same? I watched Devante and his family, my family, fall further into poverty over the following years. I tried endlessly to connect them to Baltimore resources as lapses in their food stamps and cash assistance left them hungry and without money for rent, while the long-term stability of the programs was threatened by proposed budgets and laws. By not voting, I had played a passive role in making life substantially more stressful for people I cared about immensely. Yes, I had tried to vote, but what more should I have done to make sure that I actually did? What more could I have done? If I, someone with sufficient resources and ample time, couldn't figure out how to vote in a US presidential election, there must have been others facing similar and even more extreme barriers. I embarked on a journey to learn more about voting in US elections and ways to break down the barriers that I had personally faced. I couldn't stand by the sidelines anymore. My community was too important to me to let that happen again. As part of this Civic Health Month, I hope you'll order a Healthy Democracy Kit and join me in partnering with Vot-ER to ensure that you and all of your patients can have a voice for your community as well.